the stage, we will get going. And I do want to mention, President, that this is one of the larger meetings we have, and it is true each time we have these debate forums. And really, the only common thread to that is the moderator. All right, our program today will feature the 3 validated candidates to represent the citizens of the City of York, Spring Garden Township, North York Borough, West York Borough, and the 1st Ward of West Manchester Township as state representative for the Pennsylvania 95th District House seat. The seat is a special election to fill the vacancy left by the election last fall of Eugene DePasquale as our state attorney general. As a side note, I'm very proud that he's from York. The deciding election will occur on May 22nd in conjunction with the primaries, but this will decide who the actual new state rep is for the 95th district for the remaining 2 years. The forum debate will have a 1.5-minute opening statement and a 1.5-minute close for each candidate, the order for which is to be determined by lot. And we will then move into the question and answer portion of our forum, with the candidates taking turns answering questions submitted by our members. I received 12 pages of quality questions. I won't say how many I got of unquality questions. None of the candidates have seen the questions in advance. I think that's in their best interest and our best interest. Our Sergeant of Arms, Bruce Bankenstein, will be keeping the stopwatch and will be giving 30-second and 15-second warnings. And then, if need be, I will use the official gavel to say they're out of order. We'll let them hopefully finish up their comments and move on. We will start off broadly regarding the district as a whole and move more narrowly to a few unique issues that face our city, and then broader still for issues that concern our state. Each candidate has been given the coveted rebuttal cards, and they can use any of those at any time. They have 2. And no, Brian, you can't use it yet. But they can use it any time following the completion of the remarks of one of the other candidates. 95th District is one of the more unique districts to represent the state, as it includes not only the city with its unique place as our county seat that brings with it some of the great treasures of our community, such as the Strand Theater and the Central Markets, our courthouse and the Revs, delicious restaurants and beautiful historic homes and businesses. But it also has trouble spots with large concentrations of poor and disadvantaged residents that have many unique needs. And yet, the 95th District is not only the city, but it also is home of some of our most affluent suburbs, along with aging boroughs. It's quite an interesting mix and a very difficult place to represent, and what is sometimes very conflicting desires for its collective people. So these individuals will have their work cut out for them to properly represent each of their constituencies. Now, for the 3 candidates, I will do a brief introduction of each, and then we'll get into our openings. Bryan Tate will be going first by lot, and Bryan is the Republican Party's candidate and is Vice President of Philanthropy at the York County Community Foundation. Bryan is the lead fundraising professional and oversees strategic growth of the fund for York County. Bryan previously served at the state government level as Chief of Staff to then State Representative Todd Platts in the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, and further as Platts' Chief of Staff in Congress. He's a York County native, and Bryan is a graduate of not only Spring Grove High School, but also has earned a bachelor's degree in broadcast journalism from Temple. Bryan has served on many boards and commissions, including the transition teams of both Republican and Democratic administrations for the city and the county. Bryan is a longtime board chair of the Central Pennsylvania Hugh O'Brien Youth Leadership Program and has received many accolades locally and nationally for his service. Bryan is a fellow York Rotarian and is a 23-year resident of the City of York. Bryan and his partner Ralph Serp live in the Old Town East neighborhood. Our next candidate is Bill Swartz III, and Bill is the Green Party candidate, and he is president of Sherman Property Management Incorporated, based here in York. He's the co-developer of Codo 241 and Codo 28, and he's also a member of the York Rotary Club. He recently stepped down from the board of Central Market after working with others to raise $2 million for the market's renovations. He collaborated with others to found the Live Cat music series, which continues to run today at the Strand Capitol. And Bill is a member of the executive board of Better York. He serves on municipal work groups for Metro York, and he's recipient of Central Pennsylvania Business Journal's 40 Under 40 Award. Bill attended York Suburban and earned a degree in philosophy from Colgate. And prior to founding Sherman Property Management in 1998, he worked in the field for Kinsley Construction and served as a caseworker for Bell Family Shelter. Bill enjoys cycling, yoga, and skiing, and lives in Spring Garden Township with his wife, Kelly. And then our last candidate, who will go third in our opening, is Kevin Schreiber. And Kevin is the Democratic Party's nominee and is Director of Economic Development Department and the Secretary of Redevelopment Authority for the City of York. Kevin oversees an annual department budget of over $6 million and manages over 30 employees. During his tenure with the City of York, Kevin has overseen over $150 million in economic development initiatives. Kevin holds a master's degree in public administration from Penn State and a bachelor's degree from York College in public relations. Heavily involved in the community, Kevin serves on the board of directors for Downtown Incorporated, the York County Convention and Business Bureau, the Partnership for Economic Development in York County, and the Vacant Property Review Committee. While Kevin has served on numerous additional boards, one of note to our club, Kevin served on the York City Little League Board of Directors. Kevin and his wife Jen reside in the City of York's historic Newton Square neighborhood. I will tell you, I abbreviated each of their resumes. They are extensive, and I probably could not dream of having three better suited candidates to represent us, and I suggest that we are probably going to have a wonderful representative no matter which one of these gentlemen would be successful. So we'll move on to our opening, and Bryan Tate will go first.
Thank you, Mike. As a 12-year member of this club, I'd like to thank the Rotary Club of York for sponsoring this forum. I think it's fantastic that you invite in candidates to take the opportunity to tell you a little bit more about their positions, their roles in our community, and the way that they see the vision for the future of not only York County, but also the state of Pennsylvania. I'm running in this special election to represent the people of the City of York, Spring Garden Township, North York Borough, West York Borough, and the First Ward of West Manchester Township that make up the 95th District. I'm a lifelong Yorker, and specifically a 23-year resident of the City of York, which I think is a first-class city here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I'm a recognized civic leader and an active partner in the development and promotion of York. I specifically chose to return to York after graduating from Temple University. I was fortunate enough for my first job to be back here in York, in my hometown. I was hired by Susquehanna Photograph Company. I was a producer for Cable TV of York's Cable 4, many of you remember that. I moved on, though, to serve for 12 years as Chief of Staff to Congressman Todd Platts, and I'm very proud of the accomplishments that Todd and I were able to make both in the State House of Representatives and in our U.S. Congress representing the constituents of York, Cumberland, and Adams counties. But for the past 10 years, I've been serving as the Vice President of Philanthropy at York County Community Foundation, where I'm responsible for raising millions of dollars each year to help grow our funds for York County and to ensure the long-term success of York, and so that we can address the changing needs of our community. So with that, I'll say thank you, and I will allow us to move on to the next candidate.
Bill Swartz, please.
I want to say thank you to the Rotary Club for holding this forum and for providing a place for fellowship and leadership to flourish. My father and my uncle both found decades of fellowship here, and I always feel close to them when I'm here with you. This election comes at a crucial time in our community. We are experiencing some serious headwinds. We read about them every day in the newspaper. We know about the problem of high property taxes. We know about the challenges that face us with our city schools. We know that crime is a real problem in our community. We know that the recovery that the nation is experiencing is a jobless recovery for many of our citizens. We're also finding that David Rusk was right, as municipalities around the county are beginning to experience many of the issues that our city is now experiencing. We also are faced with yet another headwind. Our entire community is about to find itself the victim of what is going to be an expensive and unfortunately ineffective new healthcare system Obamacare. Our current healthcare system is nothing to write home about, but Obamacare is an absolute abomination. But the news is not all bad. The phrase comes to mind, it was the best of times and the worst of times. Our nation is beginning to feel the recovery. National trends show that people are returning to cities. There is real momentum in our county, and we have 2 market studies that show that there's demand for 700 to 800 rental units that are high-end in our county. I feel that we should set a course for this ship of York, and that we need to put up our sails so that this ship can lead us to a prosperous and dynamic community. Thank you.
Kevin Schreiber.
Thank you all. Thank you to the Rotarians and the Rotary Club for bringing us in. I've been fortunate to work with many of you as I am the Community and Economic Development Director for the City of York. I have worked for our city for over 7 years and have been fortunate to see a lot of great accomplishments in our community. I came to York for York College from neighboring Chester County, where I earned my bachelor's degree and I fell in love with York. I moved downtown, I got involved in the community, and then later I fell in love with a Yorker. My wife Jen is here today, and she is also a small business owner. She owns the Green Bean Roasting Company. Please don't judge her by her company. She was made to sit with Henry Nixon. In my tenure at the city, I have overseen $125 million in economic development. I've worked alongside small businesses. I've worked alongside business leaders. I've worked alongside budding entrepreneurs to get them up and going and keep them going in York. I've worked with our residents, our faith-based community, nonprofits, and the philanthropic community. My job has been to improve the quality of life in York, and I've done it every day. That job has brought me face-to-face with the challenges that our city faces and this district faces, and it's brought me face-to-face with the very pressing concerns that Harrisburg is holding us back. It is holding back our communities in Pennsylvania from meeting their full potential. I have fought hard for this city. I'll fight even harder for this district, and I will continue to be as strong of an advocate as my predecessor, and that's why I'm running for state representative.
Very good, thank you. We'll move right on to our first question, and we will see a shifting order in each of these questions so that you can compare and contrast people going first and people following up. The first question will be answered first by Brian, followed by Bill, followed by Kevin, the same way we just went in. The first question, as I mentioned in my opening, the 95th District covers a very diverse demographics. How can you serve the needs of economic disadvantage in York City and the desires of the economically advantaged in Spring Garden Township? Brian.
That's a loaded question. I think what's so wonderful about the 95th District is its diversity. It is so different from all of the rest of the districts here in York County. We're very fortunate to have a district that covers the center, the metro region of York County, and is so diverse because of its population, because of its businesses, because of its neighborhoods, because of all the people who make up the 95th District. What's so wonderful about it is that Spring Garden Township, West York Borough, North York Borough, and the First Ward of West Manchester Township, they help support the City of York. They're partners in all of the great things that we have going on in the City of York. And similarly, the City of York, at times, steps up and is a full participant with those outlying municipalities. I think one of the ways that we can continue to work toward a better future is to create more systems that allow for cooperation and collaboration and partnership to ensure that all of the residents of the 95th District, whether in Spring Garden or in North York or in the City of York or West York, that we all have similar opportunities. And some of those opportunities for success would be collaboration of our municipalities, collaborations of our school districts, and we're seeing things like that happening. We're providing opportunities for all Yorkers through an example like the York Academy Regional Charter School. That is a great opportunity for children of all backgrounds and all families to work together, learn together, and become successful residents of our entire community. Thanks.
Bill.
I think there are 3 things I would say about that. The first is that we need to incentivize small businesses. We spend a lot of our state and local resources incentivizing large corporations. And I would like to see us shift some more of those incentives to small businesses because they account for 85% of all jobs in the United States. The second thing I would say is that we need to improve education. And I think we all know that there are two aspects to that. The first is we need a sustainable financial model. And I applaud David Meckley for working very hard to find a good solution for that problem. And also I applaud him for looking for a good solution for the second issue, which is academic performance. That leads me to the third point I would make, and that is that about 17 years ago, David Rust came to our community and said that we were a divided community, and that's what was holding us back. And what he prescribed for that was not busing, but what he said is that we needed to incentivize mixed income housing around the county. And so what he said is we need to live where we work. We ought to be able to have our children attend quality nearby schools. And in that way, we can strengthen our community and have a much more diverse population, and we won't have a concentration of poverty that causes so many other issues in our community.
Okay, please.
This question parallels my life on a daily basis. This is exactly what I do. I am fortunate to work in economic and community development, which crosses municipal lines. While I may be solely focused on the geographical limits of the city, revitalization of our farmers markets, securing a $500,000 low-interest loan for the Codo development, improving our communities, these are things that I've done on a daily basis that improve our city, make our city a better place to live, work, and play, and enhance the investor confidence in our city. Now, conversely, I'm also working in our neighborhoods. I work to eradicate blighted properties and to rid our neighborhoods of nuisance-causing properties. And I've been fortunate to work alongside a lot of great people. And at the end of the day, all the 63,000 people in this District 1 are good schools, good jobs, and safe communities. And the common leveler, the common red thread throughout all of that is education. Education will break the cycle of poverty, and it is what every parent wants for their kid. And that's what I've been fortunate to do for the city of York. I have lived and breathed and worked to improve our community for the benefit of those that live here and the benefit of those that work here, that visit here, and that like to enjoy and recreate in our city. Thank you.
Okay, our second question, and I do want to remind some of our guests that I don't write these questions. Our cities are rotting from the inside. Our townships and boroughs operate under systems of government designed in the agricultural age, and we are now in the informational age. And some would say beyond that, in the communication age. What will you do to bring Pennsylvania forms of government into the 21st century? Bill, Kevin, and Bryan.
The first thing I would say is I was very surprised about 3 weeks ago, actually it might have been 4 weeks ago, when David Rust came to town. He told me point blank, forget about consolidation. And it really surprised me because I thought, wait a second, that was your whole point at the beginning. And he said that really only works in big box communities. What he said is that what we needed is cooperation. That each of our municipalities and school districts can retain their identity. There's no reason for that to drop, but they do need to cooperate. I think it's as frustrating for me as it is for all of you that we have 72 governments in one county. You can drive across that county in an hour. We have 16 school districts. When you think about being a small business person, I started a company about 15 years ago, and if we tried to purchase things the way York County does as one community, we wouldn't have lasted very long. So what I would say is that we need to work hard to cooperate, and I want to underscore the fact that what we can do as a community is to work in unity to incentivize mixed income housing around our county. Our community, according to a University of Michigan study, is one of the most residentially segregated counties in the nation. So we think we're like all other communities, but unfortunately we're exceptional in this area. But if we follow Rust's prescription, we can work our way out of that over time. Thank you.
Kevin, please.
Pennsylvania has the 18th largest economy in the world. Our economy is larger than many countries. When you put that in perspective and think about it from that way, we have Philadelphia and we have Pittsburgh, and we have a whole plethora in between. So Pennsylvania is poised to continue to be a leader in the country and throughout international development. But unfortunately, we can't get our own house in order. The fundamental system of government in Pennsylvania is broken, it's archaic, and it's antiquated. I've had to live with it every day, working for the city, and we see it that if the question is the city is rotting from the inside, and that's true for most Pennsylvania cities, it's only because it's the system that we've created. We have created the system of failure. And we've seen it recently with our capital city, Harrisburg, Reading being named by the New York Times as one of the poorest cities in America, Altoona, a notoriously Republican city, has declared Act 47, and York, Lancaster, and our sister cities are not far behind. Now, unfortunately, this is a crisis moment, and I was told to never waste a good crisis. I'm not sure what we're waiting for in Pennsylvania, and unfortunately, our state government twiddles its thumbs while our little roads are burning. Thank you.
There are two specific things I think we can do to bring our state into the 21st century. And they're things that impact not just our third-class cities and our major cities in Pennsylvania, but they also will help us address the issues that our townships and boroughs are facing. And I think that's important because the 95th District is made up of all of those types of municipalities. The number one issue in this campaign, when you're talking to constituents, when you go door to door, is local tax reform. That is the number one issue. When I go to Harrisburg, it will be my priority to address local tax reform. And I think that is one of the main things that we can do to address how we bring Pennsylvania into the 21st century. First off, we need to look at systems that allow for regions and counties to work together so that they can find the best forms of taxation to raise the important revenue to provide for the core services for their residents. That's for municipalities as well as for school districts. Right now, we are engaged in the most regressive form of taxation, which is property tax. Property taxing is what is harming our city. It's what's harming the municipalities around the city of York. We cannot raise the necessary dollars, so what do? We raise the tax rate again. That's forcing people to move out of the city of York and the surrounding municipalities, and we need to address that number one issue. Along with that issue, our model of Pennsylvania, York County has been a model in Pennsylvania for partnerships and collaboration among municipalities. We need to make that happen regarding taxation as well. We're a model for regional policing. We're a model now for regional fire protection. We need to encourage all of our municipalities across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to look toward these types of models to ensure the success of all the areas of Pennsylvania.
Okay, we're running just a little behind, so if you can contain your answers, especially within the time frame, we appreciate that. Question number 3 will first be answered by Kevin, followed by Bryan, followed by Bill. And it is, would you speak to your personal experience in legislative policy development and how that experience will qualify you for the 95th District, citing specific examples? Okay.
As Community and Economic Development Director for the City of York, I am tasked with serving as a liaison to City Council, and it has been my job on a daily basis to advocate for reform, and I've been fortunate to work amongst the federal government, amongst the state government, and the local government. Not only serving as liaison to the department, to City Council, and advocating for legislative changes, overseeing a budget that is constantly asked to do more with less. I have testified before Senate Urban Affairs, before Education Committee, both the House and the Senate. I have advocated on behalf of reform of what was called Act 90, which was signed into law by Governor Rendell, which was the Blight Reclamation and Revitalization Act. This legislation gave tools to communities, particularly municipalities, to help fight and attack urban blight and absentee landlords. I have advocated in conjunction with several statewide organizations for reform of other municipal laws like conservatorship and things that give more reform and more tools to city governments and municipalities. These are legislative reforms that take establishing relationships, understanding the issues, and working amongst all ranks of government, federal, state, and local, to foster things to get done. I'm working right now with Senator Smucker on 2 pieces of legislation that will benefit both the cities of York and Lancaster. So again, at the end of the day, it does not matter party, it matters about getting things done that improve our community. Right?
Thanks. I agree completely that it's not about party, it's about relationship building. For 12 years, I served as Chief of Staff to Congressman Todd Platts, both in the State House of Representatives as well as in the U.S. Congress. Those were key roles in providing leadership for this community. Specifically, working in Congress with Todd, I was his key liaison, not just for the the counties that we serve, York, Adams, and Cumberland, but I was also his key legislative staffer in building relationships in the White House and in the other congressional offices across the country. That is a key leadership role that I bring to this race running for state representative here in the 95th District. But not only was I serving on that national level, I continued to serve here at the local level. From 1994 to 2007, I served on the York City Recreation and Parks Board. I think my experience is broad. I think I bring to the table a level of experience that is a partnership on the most local level with my neighbors and surrounding citizens to make things happen here in the city of York and in the surrounding areas of the city of York, but I also see the role that I played at the national level. I think it's also important to point out that one of the key roles that I have been serving over many years, not just in working with Congressman Platts, but also as I continue in my career at the Community Foundation, I'm a key liaison with our legislative delegation here in York County. I've built relationships with those other legislators for the past 20 years, and I think when I go to Harrisburg as state representative, I'll be able to play on those relationships that I've built and work with those folks to ensure that York County as a whole is well represented in Harrisburg.
I'm going back a little bit in time here, but I think it does matter. I was an intern in the U.S. Congress for Congressman Goodling, and I was very fortunate to meet President Bush during that time. And there was an incident that you may remember where President Bush made a side comment about alar on apples, and Adams County apple growers had a big problem with that. I was the person that wrote the letter to President Bush and got him to take a picture with Congressman Goodling to fix that problem. I also interned in the district attorney's office helping to enforce laws, so it was very interesting to see how laws are made and how they're enforced. I have a great relationship with Eugene De Pasquale, and I would call on all of us citizens in York and in Pennsylvania to help allow Eugene to audit the State House of Representatives. And I believe that should begin with the leadership accounts where there are $150 million of your tax dollars sitting that are not accounted for. Lastly, I would say that I also spent time on the Metro York Commission, which we did a lot of study of how to help third-class cities. If you think about it, we've spent decades sending people from the same two parties to Harrisburg, and you've seen the results that we get. We send really good people to Harrisburg and Washington, but when they get there, they find that they're on a team and they're not allowed to work with each other. They're beholden to the whips on either side. If you send me to Harrisburg, the only thing that I'm beholden to is common sense.
Okay, I keep flashing that. Oh, go ahead, Kevin. Thank you.
I think it's important for us to recognize that we have a delegation right now of elected officials that voted to support Governor Corbett's budget, which decreased education funding, which caused local property taxes to go up. We have a York County delegation that has taken over 3 years to even propose a hotel tax increase, a tax increase that's supported by our county commissioners, by our Convention and Visitors Bureau, and by the hoteliers, and generally speaking is not paid for by York Countyans. And we have a delegation that right now in their party controls all of Harrisburg and has not brought forth any positive change to benefit the residents of this district. So I don't necessarily want someone up in Harrisburg that's simply going to raise their hand and agree with the majority. I want someone that's going to go there and tip over the apple cart.
When I talk about my relationships with our legislative delegation, what I think is key about that is that I've built those relationships over 20 years. I want to work with that group of people to bring to the forefront the issues of our gem, which is York City and the surrounding townships and boroughs. I think it's important to have a partner working together as part of that team to ensure that that delegation sees all sides of all issues. I think it will be important for them to have somebody in that seat they trust and realize that the information that's being brought forward to them is something that they should maybe take a second look at and think more about. I think that's what I bring to the table, and that's what I'm looking forward to provide as a member of that team.
Okay, unfortunately, I keep watching that clock flying by. So I'm going to try to pull two questions together, and you can choose to answer both or any part that you wish. And I'm going to limit each of you to 1 minute if I could. I'm going to do kind of a little follow-up to Kevin, which is the school funding formula is outdated and need a change. I believe it was set in 1990. And what would you do to finally address changing that? And I will tell you, every person goes to Harrisburg says they're going to change it and never does. And the second portion of the combined question is, what do you believe is the answer to the York City School District financial crisis, consolidation, reform from within, going to charter schools, or something else? And do you envision any legislation that could help? So that's an awful lot of information trying to get more. Brian will start by Kevin. Did you see the first part? The first part was the school funding formula, which we've been stuck in since 1990 and seems to be not benefiting our communities.
The question was so long, I couldn't remember what started the question. I have been sharing with constituents as I go door to door how important education funding is, and it ties in completely with what I thought was the number one issue in this race is local tax reform. I think it's vitally important that whoever we elect goes to Harrisburg with that particular message that the education funding formula must be changed. How can we continue to operate under a system where we're looking at figures from 17, 20 years ago? That makes no sense at all. The fastest growing areas of our state, like York County, are paying for the districts that are shrinking in size. That makes no sense. That's a priority. Coupled with that is the issue that our York City School District shares a border. It is the lowest performing and poorest funded district in York County, and one of them in Pennsylvania. It shares a border with the highest performing district that has the wealthiest, that's the wealthiest district. What's so important is that we have to take a look at how we're addressing the current problem in our York City School District. I've been a proponent of the proposed all-charter model. I know that a lot of people are taking the time to learn more about that model right now, and I've gotten to stop, and I will use my rebuttal later to share more information with you.
Okay.
So obviously the system is broken, and it's been broken for several years. And unfortunately, recent reductions in state budget have just led to increased taxes on the local level. And I'm knocking on doors, whether it's in West York, whether it's Spring Garden Township, meeting with Spring Garden Township Commissioner Tom Morgan, who I know is here. The issue is still the same. Regardless of living in the city of York, Spring Garden, West York, West Manchester, people are concerned that the property taxes have spiked due to education funding. And until we as Pennsylvanians decide to prioritize education funding, the system, we're forever going to live in perpetuity. Now, long term, we need a new mix of hybrid options, of a hybrid revenue options. Long term, we need to, short term, we need to fight for the allocations to these school districts that we deserve. Long term, hybrid options. New revenue options that can drive down the cost of property taxes.
On the question of school funding, I think that we need to cut property taxes in half, countywide. And I would like to see us make up the difference with a countywide flat income tax. And those funds would be distributed based on the number of students in each district. It's the only fair way to do that. I've spent a lot of time in Harrisburg in the last several months, and I've talked to low-level staff members, upper-level staff members, and members of the House and Senate. And what I've found is that there's some good news. So many citizens are outraged about the property tax situation that the opportunity is great right now to reform property taxes. Secondly, York City School District needs two solutions. One is a short-term solution, and I believe the internal reform model that David Meckley is studying right now offers excellent short-term solutions. But we know from David Russ that the real solution is long-term, and we need to do mixed-income housing around the county. 80% of the people at the doors agree. You wouldn't know that from watching TV. I'm in York High every Tuesday morning for several hours. We have great kids here, but it's time we do right by them. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to skip to a very interesting question, which is going to really allow each of you. Oh, my bad. Go.
I think it's important to realize that as we make a decision on our city school district, it's in this circumstance because it's of our own creation in Pennsylvania. 90% free subsidized lunch. We have kids that are 4 times the special needs kids than other surrounding districts, and over 20% are still learning the English language. I would be very hesitant to turn it over to a 100% charter district without, at minimum, proper governance, accountability, and transparency. We need new laws to ensure that the money is getting to the kids. Our Auditor General's recent report showed that in some charter cases, it is not. So while we're about to make a very bold decision moving forward, we need to ensure that it's done responsibly, and at the end of the day, that all of our kids have the opportunity for equal educational experience. It should not matter whether you live in Jacobus, in Lower Merion Township near Philadelphia, or York City. Your zip code should not predicate the educational experience that you get. And right now in the city of York, we're paying King of Prussia rates for discounts to our education.
I think Bill was first, so we'll go with Bill. You gotta be quicker with your rebuttal.
I believe in strong public education. I went to a public high school. David Russ came to our community 17 years ago. He came back 5 years later. He came back 7 years ago, and he came back 3 weeks ago. And he told us the same thing each time. It's time to incentivize mixed income housing around our community. Right?
Thank you. Charter schools are public schools. We need to remember that. They are governed by the school board of that public school district. Also, York City School District is the product of not just our state system, it's also a product of our administration of the city school district. Over the past 20 years, we have allowed the administration of our city school district to create the problem that we have. And I say that knowing some of those people as my neighbors, but unfortunately we have a situation where we don't have enough people who run for school board. When we do, they don't show up to meetings, or they leave the community, and we have to replace those people. We have an unfortunate situation. On top of that, our school board has gone through 5 superintendents in 10 years. How are we supposed to achieve anything with that type of a situation? The proposal in front of you, the all-charter model, is not something that was just pulled out of thin air. It is a tested and tried model that is showing great success in other communities, in Pittsburgh, in Philadelphia, in Baltimore, and in New Orleans. Think about New Orleans, where they had a terrible situation with education, and then they had Hurricane Katrina happen. Talk about devastation. Within 5 years now, after Katrina, they're showing great success with their all-charter model.
All right. I'm going to ask the last question. Please keep your answers to 1 minute, and then we'll move into our close. This should be a softball for each of you to kind of figure out what you really care about. If each candidate has single wish guaranteed to work, what is the one single item that each candidate would change about our current laws, regulations, which would have the greatest positive impact on your district and residents? And Willing Peace has already been taken off the table. And we are at Kevin, Bill, Bryan, please.
Power. I would like to. I think, unfortunately, the system that we have in Pennsylvania is very fragmented, it is very broken, and it's archaic. At the end of the day, what all of us want to reach our own self-actualization is to be able to have good jobs, a strong community, strong schools, and raise a family. And for those of us that have kids, or those that maybe plan to have kids, you want the ability to raise your kid in a very safe environment. And unfortunately, right now, we don't have that. We have a broken and very segregated and fragmented system. If I could change one thing, we should break down the walls of this archaic municipal government system in Pennsylvania. We should allow for We should allow for greater regions with more economic diversity and the ability to educate our kids while we're not warehousing our poor, but we're breaking the cycle of poverty by providing an excellent educational experience for all of our students.
Bill?
I think the most important thing we can address in the 95th district is the issue of property taxes. What we need is enabling legislation in Harrisburg that will allow us to steer our own destiny. And if we are able to cut property taxes in half, many more people will be able to stay in their homes. Property taxes will rise, and we'll see a reverse of the flight that we're seeing in some cases in the city. So I think that's the most important thing we can do. You know, we're the birthplace of our nation. We're where the Articles of Confederation were signed. We have unity in our blood. We're also the place that the York Plan came together. So I think we can do this again. I think this election is about leadership, and part of leadership is harnessing consensus. When I'm at the doors, 80% of the people agree on things. You wouldn't know it from watching TV, but they really do. They want to see improvements in education. They want to see property tax reform. I think this is about leadership. We need to harness that energy and go to Harrisburg and get this done instead of talking about it.
Right?
The only way that we can break down an archaic system and to enact these important issues we've been talking about, property tax reform, tax reform, education reform, is to restore honor and integrity to public office. I'm a candidate who does not take special interest PAC money. That is critically important. When working in DC, I can tell you the number one thing that frustrated me the most was the fact that lobbyists were giving millions of dollars to candidates to buy their votes. Why do you think your prescription drugs are so expensive in this country? It's being done for a reason. I don't take PAC money because I want everyone to know that my campaign is about the people of the 95th District and the individuals who support me. That's the message that I take door to door every Saturday. It's the message that I provide here to you. And it's the message that I think is missing in Harrisburg and in DC. We need to ensure that we can hold our elected officials accountable. And the way they do business in their campaigns and personally is how they should be doing business as our elected officials.
Okay, we're going to move into the closing phase, and it'll be Kevin, followed by Brian, followed by Kevin.
Again, I'd like to thank everyone for obviously inviting us in and taking the time. I'd like to thank my two colleagues. We are all friends, while we may not play it today, and we all are doing good things for this community. And I do think it is testament to this community that it has three very good candidates. I happen to think that I am the best candidate. I have been fortunate to serve this city of York, and it has been one of the greatest pleasures and honors of my life, and it has been life-changing. And this decision to run was not entered into lightly. It was with long deliberation and discussion with my wife and my family. And I hope voters will support me for the same reason that our Auditor General supports me, and our County Commissioner, our Mayor, and former mayors. And it has been a delight to work for the city, and this Rotary Club believes in fellowship and service above self. And that is a way that I've lived my life and will continue to do so. I will not look through a lens of party, but will look through a lens of getting things done. That's what I've been tasked to do as Community and Economic Development Director, and that's what I believe I've done. And you don't need to look at my resume, you need to ask your neighbors and those at the table around you. I've worked with many of you to accomplish good things in this community. I've been a strong advocate for the residents, and I'd like to join the team in Harrisburg that represents the 63,000 residents of this district. Thank you.
Brian?
Again, thank you very much to Rotary Club of York for sponsoring this forum. It's great to be in a crowd of fellow members of Rotary. I want to remind everybody of the important issues that I've talked about here today. I think it's critically important to remember that three things about voting for our next state representative are their experience, their community leadership they've shown, and their community service. I bring all of those things to the table. In my 12 years of service with Congressman Platts to this area, to our larger community, as well as the leadership that I provide at the Community Foundation, having worked with a wonderful board over the past 10 years, and volunteers from this community who help us to grow this wonderful endowment that will secure York County's future for many, many generations. But also the work that I do on a daily basis as a member of this great city we call York. I'm out there every day volunteering with my neighbors. I'm out there every day working with people to clean up the street that we live on, to ensure that we have wonderful parks and recreation for everybody in the city of York and the surrounding areas, to work with everybody to realize that we live in a very special place. I want to take that same type of feeling to Harrisburg. I want people to realize that York matters, and that in working with our legislative delegation, I want to remind them that the city of York and West York and North York and Spring Garden Township and the First Ward of West Manchester Township, that they matter. And with that team, I want to ensure that York County is represented well, and that we can create positive change that impacts not just our community, but all of Pennsylvania. Thanks so much.
Bill?
We all read this newspaper every day, and I, like you, many times have felt like the news is like the weather. It just happens to us. But I also have found that at times we can make the news. You know, we hire politicians, and we can fire them. I think we can make the news. We can cut property taxes in half and make up the difference with a county-wide flat income tax. We can incentivize small businesses, which account for 85% of all jobs. We can improve academic achievement and build a sustainable financial model for our schools. We can fight crime at its core by expanding opportunities. And we can support Senate Bill 400, which allows the state of Pennsylvania to opt out of Obamacare and provide better health insurance at a lower cost. This election is about setting a course for this beautiful and massive ship we call York. Our North Star should be this: we can be a thriving, dynamic, and prosperous community that attracts and retains businesses and residents. Once we realize that we have more in common than we have separating us, we can begin to make decisions from a position of unified strength rather than demands from a position of divided weakness. Together we are greater than the sum of our parts. Together we are one York.
I'd like to thank all three of our candidates, if you would join me. Truly, my only regret is that we don't have an additional hour. I think that everyone would agree that we have three excellent candidates giving us excellent answers, and we do not view this as a waste of our time, certainly. And I wish each of you well. I hope that the good people of the 95th District have the good sense to elect the very best person that can represent them. And I thank you for your time. I also thank each of you that submitted questions. It's very difficult with three candidates to sit there and move along and still give them some quality time to actually get a real answer in. But we did the best we could. Bruce, always, thank you very much for the timekeeping. Not an easy job, and you kept them on task. So with that, President Jones.
Good job, man.
I wanted to just add a couple of thanks, and the first thanks goes to Mike. Didn't you do a great job? He does normally a very good job with political debate. I want to thank the three candidates for coming. I want to thank you for coming, but I want to thank you for being candidates. Thank you. We need good people. And as you go out this week, I hope that you follow the practice that the candidates have shown us: service above self. That's what it's all about. Thank you. Have a great day.